Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news, and update show. Lots of little things to talk about. Le Mans expected to make his national team debut with Courtois suffering an injury. There is rumours that that Højlund's loan at Napoli could be cut short and Man United could recall him back after Sesko's injury. But as far as I'm aware, and people I've spoken to, 99.9% not going to happen. As far as people I've spoken to, Højlund is staying at Napoli, who have not been having the greatest time. They've lost 3 games now this season in Serie A. Højlund had a very, very bad game for Napoli, which hasn't been spoken about. He played like he did for Man United yesterday for Napoli against Bologna. I don't really want to call Højlund back. If we call Højlund back because Sesko's injured, when we know that Xerxes was better than Højlund last season, for me, it would make no sense. The problem is, if Napoli don't finish in the top 4, we don't get our 40 million for Højlund, and Napoli are currently 4th after dropping more points. There's actually pressure on Antonio Conte there as well. In terms of other news stories coming out, there's now talk that there's a release clause. Kobbie Mainoo has a release clause, which is 90 million euros, which I'm going to check what that is in pounds. 90 euros in pounds, which is 78 million pounds. Apparently, Mainoo has a £78 million release clause, or 79 if you want to round it up, and Real Madrid have genuine interest in Kobbie Mainoo. That was the report coming out. There's also a report coming out that Victor Osimhen, incredible form, has not gone unnoticed, and United are eyeing a move for Victor Osimhen. Obviously, yesterday we spoke about the January window, how Amran's priority is now an attacker, which I wasn't best pleased about. I've always said I think priority needs to be left wing back and midfielder. But if Victor Osimhen is the priority attacker, then we're having a different conversation, because I think the Sesko discourse has gone over the top. I think Sesko is getting way too much criticism. I do not get it. I think Gary Neville started this pile on Sesko, which for me makes no sense. But don't get me wrong, we need an experienced striker, and Osimhen we would have taken over Sesko. So look, if Osimhen's the attacker we're going for, I'm like, okay, but I still think midfield and left wing back is important. Man United's reported priority transfer target has been revealed. We will name the midfielder below, who I'm not a big fan of. We'll talk about Sesko. I think the criticism of Sesko has gone overboard. We'll talk about our new midfield signing, Orozco, who will be coming in the summer. He's doing very well at youth level. We will talk about just matches coming up and just more. So, look, guys, I hope you're doing well. This is one of your Man United live streams where we just go through loads of news stories and we just waffle about it and we just chat about it. And yeah, hope you're all having a good day. I'm going to get into the news in a second. Just going to get into the chat. But to my understanding, Rasmus' contract doesn't allow him to come in season. I don't think it does. There's a rumour that Rasmus is going to be recalled from loan and if Sesko's injured, but I don't think it does. Wing back and sorting the midfielder priorities, but Sesko could use an established 9 to develop under. 100%, I agree. I'm not against the number 9, but I think wing back and midfield is the biggest priority for me. But if someone said Conor Gallagher or Victor Osimhen, I'm obviously going to go with Victor Osimhen over Conor Gallagher, despite saying that we need a midfielder, not a striker. It also depends on, I think, the calibre of player that you can get in that position. So yeah, I want to talk about the Victor Osimhen news. Because I don't really think there's much in it now, but I think it is one to watch, because Victor Osimhen, I don't know if you've seen Osimhen in the UCL this season, I don't know if you guys have watched any of Galatasaray this season, but Victor Osimhen only has 3 goals in 9 matches in Turkey, but Victor Osimhen in the UCL this season has been absolutely nuts. He's got 6 goals in 3 Champions League games. He's looking absolutely fantastic, and Victor Osimhen is an absolutely mint striker. He's an absolute top player. Like, there's no denying that. And there is talk that, United like Victor Osimhen. We did look at him in the summer, but I think what put us off him was maybe the wage demands and the fact that he was willing to go to Turkey rather than go to Europe. United are concerns over attitude. But Victor Osimhen is a player that needs to be playing in the Premier League, in my opinion. I mean, he's got Chelsea written all over him, but he's a player that needs to be playing in the Premier League. And there is reports coming out that United are eyeing a move for him. But I'm going to say take this with a huge pinch of salt, but I'm also going to deludedly hope that this is true. Victor Osimhen's incredible form since joining Galatasaray hasn't gone unnoticed among Europe's elite. Manchester United, one of the clubs eyeing a future move for the striker. I know Galatasaray is a huge club with great support. I know that Turkey is much warmer than most of Europe and a decent place to live. So don't get me wrong, I can 100% get why Victor Osimhen is very happy playing in Turkey. He's getting a good wage. But I just think that surely Victor Osimhen is going to go to one of Europe's elite clubs in the next year. Surely. He's too good to be at Galatasaray. And that's no disrespect to Galatasaray. They're a huge club with a huge fan base. But I feel like Victor Osimhen is too good. I feel like Victor Osimhen is going to leave Galatasaray in the next year. I think he went there for another year. I think he's going to leave in the next year. And I think a club in Europe will go for him. Maybe it's the wage demands that puts clubs off. Maybe Galatasaray want a huge fee. But as Alex said, this is no disrespect to the league, because I think in terms of the fan base, Turkey have maybe the best league. I think in terms of the passionate fan bases, you know, the away games, the last place you want to go is Galatasaray away. I think the Turkish league, when it comes to pure passion and the fans, is one of the best leagues in world football, and it's, for me, probably the 6th or 7th best league in the world if we're going quality wise. But Victor Osimhen should be in the Premier League or La Liga, in my opinion. I feel like he's too good to be, you know, I don't know, like, I feel like he could leave Galatasaray. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like he could leave. Maybe January, probably this summer. But United eyeing him up. His Champions League performances, of course, the elite clubs are eyeing him up. We need an experienced striker. Sesko was our third choice. Gillette was our first choice. He's been bad. I'm just going to say this now. All this negative talk about Sesko, because he's had 2 bad games in a row, even though he had 4 good games in a row before those 2 bad games in a row. Where's this talk about Liam Delap? Stunk it up his last couple of games for Chelsea. No, he's come back from injury. I know he's had red cards. Red cards, injuries, stunk it up. Why is this? Oh, Liam Delap's not done enough. Why is Benjamin Sesko having 4 good games and has 2 bad games and has a target on his back? Had 4 good games, had a bad game versus Nottingham Forest, and Gary never put a target on his back. Where is this talk about Liam Delap that got hooked at halftime versus Wolves? I will say that. I think Benjamin Sesko getting far too much stick, and I think he's a good player in Sesko. But we need an experienced striker. We need someone that's ready now, that's proven, because you can see there's a confidence issue with Sesko. Maybe mentality could be stronger. I look at it and I think we need an Osimhen, Gyökeres type player. Obviously, Gyökeres hasn't been great, so maybe we actually, blessing in disguise, not getting Gyökeres. But I do feel like we do need a bit of experience. For me, the priority is centre mid and left wing back. But I'm like, experience in attack is something that needs to be looked at. If Osimhen comes to United as a Chelsea fan, I'd be fuming. I mean, I feel like he's always been Chelsea bound, though. That's what I've always said. He's always been Chelsea bound. Thoughts on Neville bashing Sesko before the last 2 games? Do you think it's affected his mentality? I'd hope that Sesko's mentality is strong enough for it not to affect him, but I don't think Sesko has the strongest mentality, and I've always said that. I like the player. I think there's a good player there. I think he's showed really good stuff in his hold-up. He's had 3 good games. It just annoys me that he's had 4 good games in a row, 2 particularly good games where he scored against Brentford and Sunderland, and he had a bad game versus Nottingham Forest, but he'd been good the 4 games before that. And Gary Neville sort of pops at Sesko, and I felt that it was a bit unnecessary, because you look at Barry of Everton, who's not scored at all in 13 games this season, and they paid a decent fee for him. You know, you look at other players out there, Liam Delap, and they're not getting the attention that Sesko gets. Like, I feel like the hate that Sesko gets is nuts. Now, obviously, the fact that, you know, Arsenal originally wanted him and he's been spoken about a while, he's going to get stick from rivals. But our own fan base is what worries me. Like, Gary Neville's meant to be a Manchester United fan, and he's out there slandering Sesko after a few games. This is a 22-year-old lad that's come to a new league, that is adapting, that's had a few good games, then has this 1 bad game, and people are going at him. And like, for me, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. And as Alex said this, out of order for Gary Neville to do that. Our former players seem to like destabilising the squad lately. I don't get the stick on Sesko. I get going, oh, we'd like to see a bit more from him. Man United paid a big fee. But we all knew that Sesko wasn't 100% what we needed. We said at the time we needed a centre mid more than a striker. And if we needed a striker, we needed an experienced striker. We went and brought in a young striker. But I'll tell you this now, Sesko's a better player than Højlund. I can tell you that after watching 3-4 games of Sesko this season. He's better than Højlund. There's a good player in Sesko that's incredibly raw, that definitely, if he was more confident, probably scores that before Mickey van der Ven makes the tackle. And maybe we win that game 2-0, and maybe that's is a different mindset, a different result. But, like, for me, The hate on Sesko was nuts. Okay, he had a bad cameo. Okay, he had a bad game versus Nottingham Forest, but one bad game and a 10-minute cameo does not all of a sudden mean he's trash and never going to be good enough at 22 years of age going to a new league. Look at Florian Wirtz. Look at Xavi Simons. Look at Liam Delap. Come on. What? But I feel like Sesko is so hated, and look, rivals are always going to hate, but our own fan base as well. It's like, look, I said we need a midfielder and experienced striker over Sesko. Sesko wasn't on my list of names to bring in. But from what I've seen of Sesko, I like him. I'll support him. I think there's a mint player there. I think Sesko can be a good player. I think the hate on Sesko has gone way too far. It's just like getting to the point where it's just a bit like over the top. And he's going to be reading that, and it's going to be affecting his confidence, and it's going to be affecting his mentality. And I agree with what Ian Irvin said here. He said, I thought some of the comments and criticism of Benjamin Sesko went a bit far, and it did. He's on for 10 minutes. He's not the reason we lost that game. Yeah, maybe Wayne Rooney would have stayed on if he was injured. Let's be honest. You know, other strikers maybe would have scored that. Van Nistelrooy, if he's in that position, Van Persie, if he's in a position, would have scored that. But we brought in a young striker. He's going to have good games. He's going to have bad games. He's going to be hot and cold. He's going to learn and grow in confidence. As a fan base, the best thing we can do is get behind him and support him, because that's what's that going to do? That's probably going to help his confidence more than slandering him. If we sit there and slander our own young player after a couple of games, he's going to read that and his confidence is going to be knocked. If we get behind the player, show him that we love him, he might get his confidence back, because confidence is 50% of being a striker. It's 50% ability, 50% confidence. You could be as good as Haaland, but if you don't have the confidence, and Sesko needs the confidence, he needs the mentality, and I think as a fan base, we really need to get behind Sesko and support him. Don't remember our former players slating the class of 92 when they were developing. Yeah, I think the thing is, the class of 92 kind of won it all. And I think that's an expectation now at Man United. If we're not winning it all, we're failing. And maybe we don't realise that we're still developing as a squad and we're not quite there yet. And we can't expect everyone to be the finished product right away. That's what I think. Yeah. Amarin hasn't unlocked Sesko yet. The moment he does, everyone will be regretting hating on him. I agree. I think there's a player in Sesko. I think he's got really good fundamentals. I think he's had good games. I think he's had bad games. The injury isn't predicted to be serious, maybe a couple of weeks, but give Xerxes a run him. Isak's not scored a goal in the league yet as well, but he's not really played. Igor Thiago, second season at Brentford. That's playing really well, to be fair. He's given me the FPL points. Thank you very much. Our former players can have an opinion, but it's unfairly attacked. Yeah. I like a lot of our former players, and they have strong opinions. And a lot of them have strong opinions because they're used to Man United being the best of the best, and they're used to the level being different when they were there. But it is a different level to when they were at the club. And maybe they have to expect that the players we're bringing in is a slightly different level, but they're developing. Maybe. Another international break, Alice, can't be asked with it. No one can be asked with international breaks. They're so boring. So boring. Signing experienced strikers work for us in the past, Zlatan, Cavani, Ronaldo. That's the thing. And I said this all summer. I would rather go for Zlatan, Cavani, Ronaldo type player than a young player in the summer. That's why I wanted someone like Victor Osimhen. That's why I was a big fan of even like Mateta and Watkins. And people were like, what do you mean? Because I just think the difference having a bit of proven could do. Harry Kane would have been absolutely lovely. I've always wanted an experienced striker. There's a lot of young strikers out there. But look, I think Sesko can be good. Maybe Harry Kane comes in for a year or two and Sesko learns and grows from him. That would be even great. But yeah, I want to talk about news on a Mainoo release clause. And I want to talk about a few other transfer news on what Man United's priority players are in the window and more. So also, if you are enjoying today's live show, feel free to hit that like button. Phil said, let's be honest, Man United was lucky to get Jolt Spurs. I don't know if I'd say lucky. I don't think Tottenham are great, but I think Tottenham were much better in the second half and they deserved to be back in the game. The first half wasn't great, but I think we were a slightly better team. The second half, I think Tottenham were all over us. But Tottenham didn't have that real quality to capitalise. And I think Tottenham were probably the slightly better team. But I do think a draw was probably a fair result on paper, to be honest, versus Spurs. Danny Welbeck, I mean, look, he probably improves us a bit, let's be honest. The league is much more difficult now. The quality and financial strength up and down the table was years ago one or two clubs, to worry about season. That's the different thing. People forget that the Premier League is harder than it ever is before because there's so many clubs that are so financially strong that can go and bring in big key players. And the margins are much smaller, and I completely agree with that. So yeah, let's talk about what's been said on Mainoo. Oh, absolutely knackers today. Right. Real Madrid maintained genuine interest in Mainoo. Manchester United reportedly set his release clause at 90 million. So, again, I think this is Facheas, and I think Facheas is absolutely full of shite. So I think this is complete, utter bullshit, if I'm going to be honest. But we are here to talk about it. There is rumours going about of Mainoo having a release clause. Real Madrid being interested. That's 80 million. I don't think that people are going to pay 80 million for Mainoo because he's not played this season. But there is talk of Mainoo being sold. There is talk of Mainoo having a release clause. And Real Madrid do have interest in Mainoo. Real Madrid maintained genuine interest in Kobbie Mainoo. Manchester United have reportedly set his release clause at around 90 million euros. Both Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid have interest in Mainoo. Now, Mainoo was out of the squad because he picked up a minor knock. That's why he was out of the squad versus Tottenham. But Ben Jacobs did go and say on the United stand just 2-3 days ago that Ruben Amorim trusts Kobbie Mainoo, and Mainoo has spent the most time with Amorim working on tactical evolution, and Ruben Amorim wants to build maturity and intelligence in Mainoo. And there is talk that Ruben Amorim has big plans for Mainoo in the future as well. David Ornstein said that West Ham have looked at Kobbie Mainoo, who's open to going there, but Man United have said that's not happening, and Man United will block any request of Mainoo to leave. It seems unlikely that Mainoo will go in January. Xerxes says more likely to go in January, but there is a lot of clubs looking at Mainoo. And even Romano said himself, Amorim considers Xerxes and Mainoo crucial for his project and doesn't want them to leave in January. So I don't think anything happens in January unless we do bring in a midfielder like Conor Gallagher. But is it really worth selling Kobbie Mainoo to bring Conor Gallagher in? Absolutely not. We know that United appreciate Adam Wharton, but that's looking summer-wise. We know Elliot Anderson is more realistic in the summer. I would make no sense to say, Mainoo, you go on loan and we'll go loan in Conor Gallagher when we know that Mainoo is twice the player Conor Gallagher is, and Mainoo offers something unique. But yeah, Mainoo and Xerxes are going to speak to Amorim in the next month with the window about to open again, and we will see what happens. But Mainoo's not happy. He's not playing a lot of minutes. He's got Real Madrid, he's got Napoli, he's got Atletico interested in him. Mainoo will consider that move. And you can't blame Mainoo if he wants to consider the move because he's got a lot of top clubs interested in him. Yeah. Madrid need a box-to-box midfielder, but spending 80 million sounds completely absurd. A year ago, 80 million for Mainoo would sound normal because he was so good. He look at that FA Cup final performance. A year ago, Mainoo was an 80 to 100 million pound player. I don't think we're going to get that kind of money for Mainoo now because he's not playing. Alice, your eyes are getting heavy. You've starting to feel sleepy. I just get sleepy. I don't know what it is. Whenever I go live, I just get quite sleepy. I'm always just sleepy. I'm always tired. I don't know what it is. I think I've got like chronic fatigue or something. So sometimes I'll be making a video and I'm fine the first 10 minutes. And then I just go, I think I've got a bit of chronic fatigue or something at the moment because it's been happening for a good year. That's why I do live streams earlier in the day when I'm less sleepy because at 6 o'clock I can barely stay awake sometimes. Injury or not, the lack of minutes for Mainoo has become irritating. I agree. He should have more minutes than he's got. I get not taking Casemiro off, but he should be coming ahead of Agate. Selling Mainoo as an own goal, he's a developing player loan, but maybe selling is foolish. I agree with you, Mike. I would not sell Mainoo. One, if Mainoo does have an 80 million release clause, we would have easily got 80 to 100 million from a year ago with how good he was. Two, if you loan Mainoo, he gets minutes when we're in a position where we can bring him back in and Amorim's going to play and trust him after Bruno's left. Boom. There's minutes for him. I'm against selling Mainoo. I think there's £100 million midfielder there. And I think if we sell him, we regret it. Newcastle sold Elliot Anderson. They regret it. I think he'd be our Elliot Anderson if we sold him. I think we'd regret it. Some people want the 80 million right now, but I would not sell Mainoo. And I would not let him go for his 80 million release clause if that is true. Madrid need a box-to-box midfielder. I don't see them spending that kind of money on Mainoo. We don't even know if he does have a release clause. We don't know how true that is. But I would not sell Mainoo. I would maybe let him go on loan, but I would not sell him. I think there's a player in Mainoo. And from what I'm hearing, when Bruno goes, Amorim is trusting Mainoo to take over that role. And Bruno's not getting dropped, which is why Mainoo's barely playing. But apparently Amorim sees Mainoo as the guy to replace Bruno, apparently. Mainoo will get his chance and come back. A giant. I agree. I think with Mainoo, he's too good to not get back in. I think when he's given a chance, he's going to prove himself, and then he's going to be undroppable. Like Szoboszlai was sort of being, everyone thought Szoboszlai was going to be dropped. Wirtz was coming in, and Szoboszlai's had the best season of his life this year. He's been Liverpool's best player. Last year, there was talk that Gravenberch didn't have the most impressive first season at Liverpool. His second season at Liverpool was nuts. Maybe this is Mainoo's rough season, but maybe next season he comes back stronger, or maybe this season he comes back stronger ahead of the World Cup, and we're like, wow, he's so good. He will get his chance. I think he's too good to not be playing, but it is frustrating because he's competing with Bruno, and Bruno's never going to be dropped. Never going to be dropped, never going to be taken off, is he? Bruno not always having a great match lately. Kobbie should be first sub on. I agree to an extent. I love Bruno. I'm Bruno's biggest fan, and I get why Bruno stays on when he has a bad game, because Bruno's one of those players that even if it's a crap game, he can produce something and get a goal or assist. Like, I don't think Bruno was very good versus Liverpool, but he assisted Harry Maguire's goal because he can do that, and that's why Bruno stays on. But I do look at it and say maybe we should look at taking Bruno off if he's having a bad game and bringing someone like Mainoo on to show Bruno you're not untouchable. Do you know what I mean? To show everybody that anyone can play, anyone can be dropped, anyone can be subbed. I think it's a good way of doing that, to be honest. So selling Mainoo be an Andreas Correa's move totally wrong. I agree. I am completely against selling Mainoo. Man United should not be selling Mainoo. Maybe alone if we can't give him minutes, but he should be part of the project. He should be part of the plan. Apparently, Ruben Amorim sees him as a big part of the plan. He's having a lot of conversations with him, which is good because he's too good to sell. He's too good to sell. Like, I like Mainoo. He's too good to sell. Bear with me 1 second, guys. Okay, there we go. I always get sleepy, so I have to do star jumps to wake me up. I feel like that just gets the... So hopefully I'm alive now, which sounds like a really weird thing, but there we go. And I just didn't think you wanted to see me do star jumps. Let's be honest, your loss to Grimsby is more monumental than your win against Liverpool. Is it though? I mean, we beat Liverpool. I just forgot about Grimsby. Bruno should be on the bench. I don't agree with that, but my thought process is this. Bruno Fernandez is our best player. If we need a goal, 90% of the time it comes through something Bruno's done. So I get if it's 0-0 or we're 1-0 down, even if Bruno's playing bad, you keep him on the pitch because he's the best player. When he's not on the pitch, we collapse. He's a leader and he's the guy that's going to make something happen. The problem we have with Bruno is he's a defensive liability in that 6 role. He's not a 6, he's a 10. But we've got Cunha, we've got Mbeumo, and we've got Mount, and we've got Zirkzee, and we've got Ahmad. So what's the point of playing Bruno in the 10? We need him to play deeper. We all know Bruno's better when he plays higher up. We all know Bruno does his best work when he plays higher up. Bruno is our best player when he doesn't suit the role he's been given in the system. And I sometimes look at certain games and think, well, maybe that would suit someone like Mainoo more, who could keep a bit more control of the ball. Maybe we should try Mainoo and Casemiro in the pivot. But Bruno is Bruno. He's the captain. He's the leader. He's the best player. He's not going to be dropped. And Mainoo is competing with Bruno. And Mainoo knows unless Bruno gets injured, which never happens, and we've got 1 game a week, so it's not like he can rotate. Mainoo's not getting minutes. Mainoo's not getting a look in. The problem is, we let Mainoo go out on loan and Bruno gets injured or Casemiro gets injured. Because Mainoo's miles better than Agate. We'd rather Mainoo come into that midfield than Agate. Mainoo is such a good player. Mainoo is an elite player for me. I think Mainoo is one of the most talented players our academy has produced in a very long time. And we saw that in his first season under Eric Ten Hag. We saw that in the FA Cup final. Some of Mainoo's performances versus the likes of City and Liverpool have been nuts. Kobbie Mainoo is a phenomenal player, an absolutely phenomenal player he is. And for Man United to sell him, that would be ridiculous. I don't think he has a release clause. I don't think if he does have an 80 million release clause that people are going to pay that because he's not played a lot in the last year. I don't think that. But he's so good. He's so good, Mainoo, that I think we can't sell him. Maybe we loan him if we can't give him the minutes. But I think in the summer, Bruno could be off. Casemiro could be off. Mainoo, Elliot Anderson, Wharton, Agate. That could be our midfield 4. And I'm not against that. I said at the start of the season several. What are we talking about? I don't know. Bruno's not playing well in his current role and all of his assists have come from higher positions on the pitch. Mainoo should be loan and we go again in the summer. I agree. I think Bruno hasn't had the best start in his current role. It doesn't suit him. He does his best work higher up the pitch. I'm at the point where I'm open to loaning Mainoo because I don't want to have another 6 months of Mainoo barely playing. I'd rather him go on loan, which is annoying because if we get an injury in midfield, we're absolutely screwed if we loan out Mainoo, but he's too good to not be playing. I think we're overrating Mainoo. Just go back and watch his first season when he came in that Everton game, how good he was. I just think he's too good, and I think we're forgetting how good he was. Mainoo on the midfield three with the right ilk of centre mids would be mint. People who can cover ground next to him would be mint. I think he's the future, and I think it would be disappointing to lose him because we can't play him in a period when we've got one game a week. Maybe we will have to consider a loan move for him. I know I've been bigging up Mainoo for ages, but there is talk of Real Madrid of interest in Mainoo, Napoli of interest in Mainoo. Apparently, Mainoo wants to go to Napoli, although Napoli aren't doing well at the moment. Atletico Madrid have interest in Mainoo, and there was a rumour that Atletico Madrid were proposing a Conor Gallagher for Mainoo swap deal. Yeah, you heard that. Conor Gallagher for Mainoo. There's probably people in this fan base that would do that, which is worrying. I just think Conor Gallagher for Mainoo, absolutely not. I mean, we like Conor Gallagher, but we're not giving them Mainoo in return. That'd be nuts. Just on Amrin will keep bringing Agati on ahead of him despite poor performances. I guess maybe he sees Agati is more defensively secure, even though he comes on and we just are a defensive mess. Who knows? Agati's not been big. But look, Conor Gallagher is apparently Manchester United's #1 transfer target for January. Conor Gallagher is at the top of Manchester United's list for January, as he may be available on a short-term basis, possibly a loan until the end of the season. Conor Gallagher is apparently Man United's #1 January transfer target. Atletico Madrid want Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo wants a loan. A loan swap, Gallagher going one way, Mainoo going the other way, I think is a downgrade for us. Because we've got Casemiro and Bruno. If Casemiro gets injured, do we think Conor Gallagher is going to be able to fill those boots? I don't think so. I know Agati's been crap at it, so we'll look at other people, but is Conor Gallagher the answer? I don't think so. I want a midfielder and I want a wing-back, and I'm not against Conor Gallagher for an extra body in midfield if we lose a midfielder through injury and he's all we can get. But I don't think he's what we need. We need someone that's better on the ball. I think he's another Agati-type player, Conor Gallagher, and that's not been good for us. Conor Gallagher is apparently our #1 January transfer target. #1. I think that's concerning. I don't think I'd rather not sign anyone than go for Conor Gallagher unless there was midfield injuries. I mean, David said he fits the profile of the sub to come on for Casemiro, but everyone said the same about Agati, and look what happened. And he's not been great for Atletico this season. Instead of signing players we need in certain positions, we would rather sell our substitutes when injury-prone squad. I know we haven't had injuries this season, but you're right. I wouldn't look to sell our subs. I'd look to play them more, to be honest. I'd look to play them more. Gallagher loan for an extra option is okay, but not the cost of Mainoo, and I agree. I'm not against Gallagher coming in on loan as an extra option, as a depth option, but not with Mainoo going the other way. Agati has no confidence because of our crap fan base. I mean, look, the fan base has definitely been on Agati, don't get me wrong, and it doesn't help his confidence, but he's not been good enough. Just seems like Amrin's not going to give minutes to Mainoo. Yeah, this is why it's like part of me doesn't want Mainoo and Xerxes to go out on loan because I'm like, we might need them. The squad might get injured. But another part of me wants them to go out on loan because they're too good to not be playing. There's a reason why there's top clubs looking at both of those players. I mean, we might not sell Mainoo. I think if anything, we'll loan Mainoo. But it is worrying if we do have a release clause on Mainoo and teams are actually looking to buy him. I think that's worrying. Agati doesn't lack confidence. He lacks skills, says the Bongo Jeff. Instead of Gallagher, we should trust Sesko Kone. I mean, potentially he is coming back from his injury, but is it too early days? We'll have to wait and see. Agati's been poor. I'd like to see Mainoo go on loan. He needs games. I'm at the point now where I'm open to Mainoo going on loan because I've accepted the fact that Amrin's not going to play him. So even though I didn't want Mainoo to go on loan, I've purely accepted the fact that Amrin isn't going to play him. So maybe a loan move is the best call for someone like Kobbie. Maybe it is the best call. But listen, people, I just wanted to do a 30-minute live show talking about all the news. I was going to talk about a few other things like Orozco, the centre mid we signed, how he's being praised, but I'll talk about that at a later day. Obviously, we've lost to Arsenal, lost to City, beat Chelsea, beat Tottenham, and beat Chelsea, beat Liverpool, and drew to Tottenham. Is how we've done against the big five this season. Apparently, Man United are going to announce at some point this week that we're having mid-season friendlies in Saudi Arabia. And no player has made more tackles than Casemiro for Manchester United this season. So a few interesting statistics going about. But listen, people, I hope you enjoyed today's live show. See you next time. Bye.